This episode of the Survivor 50 Files is brought to you by our friends over at Manta Sleep. Summertime is officially here. The days are longer, the sun is brighter, and while all of that extra daylight can feel energizing, it can quickly sabotage your sleep. Later sunsets disrupt your body's circadian rhythm, making it harder to fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up feeling refreshed. That's where Manta Sleep comes in. Whether you're blocking out daylight or tuning out the sounds of summer nights, taking control of your sleep environment helps you get deep, restorative rest, no matter how long the sun stays up. I love this sleep mask. When we looked for a sponsor for this podcast, they were the first company that I jumped to. I bought one of these during COVID. I was sleeping very poorly. I had a lot of anxiety. This doubled the quality of my sleep. I am loyal to it, and I've been influencing for this way longer than this podcast. Visit the Manta Sleep website and use our discount code 50files. That's 50 FILES for 10% off your order. Discount code is 50files, 50 FILES. Let's get to the show. We are back with another episode of the Survivor 50 Files. My name is Brandon Donlon, and crazy, I get to talk about, I say everybody in the new era is like somebody that I went to high school with, but this is like my study group. We're talking about somebody I was with, somebody I worked on projects with in a bad way. I'm talking about one of my favorite people in the world, Emily Flippen, with one of my other favorite people in the entire world. He was there. He saw it. We witnessed it together. It's Kaleb Gebrewold. Kaleb, how are you?
Oh, brother, always good. Appreciate being on. And, Lulu is that study group that no one even tries to take the credit for it at the end. It's like nobody wants to be responsible for this. So I don't know if I'm interviewing you or you're interviewing me, but it's going to be fun to talk about Emily, right?
Oh, my God. I've said this before on podcasts, but when we were doing the walk around for the first immunity challenge, I said it and then we all laughed. But I was like, we're not going to win, right? You guys, we're not going to win this. And everybody's like, nah, we're not going to win. And look what happened. Look where we ended up.
Yeah. My favorite was honestly Sabiyah. Always, like, before the first challenge we even went to, she starts giving us pump up speeches. Just being like, don't count yourselves out. Just because they look like that and we look like this doesn't mean that we're definitely gonna lose. And then the second we got there, you're like, yeah, so no chance.
It's like you feel the same after seeing it. You would do the speech again. That's so funny. Oh my God. I have my buffs right over here. Sabiyah and Sean were going to join us here. They can't make it, but they'll be here later in the episode. This is an Emily episode. You'll see them in a little bit. However, Kaleb, tell me about, I've been asking everybody. The first question that I've asked on all of these is like your first impression of the person that we're talking about. But tell me how your first impression contrasted the Emily that you then met the first day. Like what was the difference or the connective tissue between those two things? But what was different?
Okay. I mean, so the first time, obviously, this is in the pregame in Fiji before anything has started. We're not allowed to say anything to each other. So I'm sitting around. I'm having just like my ADD, high energyness. Like I can't even sit at the table. And at one point when we're waiting for food, Drew's looking at me and he points at his bracelet. He has a red bracelet on, and then he points at himself. And he kind of goes like this. And then he points at the bracelet, pointed at himself. It took me a second, and I was like, oh, you're on the red tribe. That's not me. I shook my head, and he kind of gave me like the tear emoji with his hand, and then turned around and walked away. And I was like, you could do that? Right? So I had no idea. Like, it didn't even occur to me that was a possibility. And so I went 2 for 2 on the people that I asked, one of whom was you, right? First thing in the morning, waking up before anyone else, hanging outside of Tent City, and just kind of being like,
dude, your water bottle. You pointed at the water. Your water bottle was yellow, and I was like, I was unsure what you were doing. I'm like, are you deaf? Are you signing something? But you are, yellow. Look at us. We did it.
And that was like the dream way of doing it, because we didn't say a word when you said you were yellow too. It was kind of like a mini celebration. And we both were not able to sleep. That's why we were out there. But I don't know what happened, if it was like a post-coital energy or something. But then you just went right to bed as soon as we did that. And I was like, all right. But that was awesome. I was like, okay, I know one person. And the only other person I did it with was Emily. And this was on a boat ride over to one of our interviews things that was like at like 4 a.m. It was super early. Everyone on the boat is sleeping except for Emily. She's just kind of looking off into the corner. So I look at her, point at the life jacket, I point at me, and I'm like, how about you? With my hands in my mouth. And message did not deliver. It took us probably like 30 minutes of me being like, me, yellow, not red, not blue. And she would just be like, what? Yeah. Anyways, then when she finally got it, very excited with like her lower half of her face, she's like smiling, she's nodding, she's like, yeah, kind of thing. But her eyes spoke differently. Sure. Her eyes were like the eyes of somebody who was like not excited, maybe scared, maybe, I don't know what it was. I just kind of thought it was nerves, but it turns out I think she was just like, had no interest on being on my tribe from the pregame. So I thought Emily was just like a normal looking girl, pretty quiet, pretty plain, and would have never guessed that obviously like Emily 5 minutes in would like already be making a name for herself,
Yeah. And again, I think I've also said this on podcast, but when she was doing that, and the thing I wish they aired the most in the time that I was on the program is when she is going back and forth with Bruce. I looked at you and I was like, Jesus Christ. And you and I laughed pretty hard. I think Sabiyah maybe got in on it, but we were shocked from seeing her and seeing me, as we did have the same haircut when we filmed this. I figured that would be confusing for the cameras. But I didn't think we would ever be together. So I was thrilled. I mean, just because she also is not like, I didn't have any insight to her personality, but I knew that we would get each other. Like there's something, there's connective tissue, whatever that is. But then we start, and I retracted that. I had many confessionals where I was like, I don't know if this is what I thought it was going to be. And I think it's hard to quantify, like you see in the show, like how Emily needed a couple days to adjust. But what was that like? Like, talk me through. We're building the shelter. We're getting feedback from everybody. Really, what was that? What was the Emily settling down? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously coming in, already sniping at Bruce before we even got started. Me and Sabiyah split. We went to do a challenge and we come back and you could already tell she's like kind of rubbed some people the wrong way. Like every single person's coming up to you being like, she's talking about advantages with you guys. Like she's playing hard immediately. And so that made me a little bit worried. But what was really funny was that there's something about that just comes across like when you hang out with Emily, just so authentic, so unfiltered. And so in some ways, the more she was doing it, the more I was kind of falling for her, because it is kind of like the dream person to work with, somebody who everybody wants out. It's like an obvious target, but at the same time, they're not actually that big of a threat. They're more of an opportunity. So that's how I saw it pretty quickly. But the problem is that Emily was, such a danger to herself. It was kind of hard to rely on somebody who's so unreliable. But it was, I would say, those first impressions were great because not only was I seeing it, but I didn't mind that much. It was just hilarious. Sabiyah was like, this girl, she never has an idea. She just tells us why we can't do everything that we're trying to do. Like Hannah wasn't loving it. Sean wasn't loving it. It was like, what was your first impressions?
I mean, I think I don't know if you remember, I had like an incident in the first couple minutes of the show, like a big public thing. So I was just so thrilled. I think I had a confessional that I was like, this is great. Let's keep doing this. This is awesome. So I don't think, and maybe this is now like revisionist history because I love Emily so much now, but I don't remember being as bothered by it just because I came in knowing like this social, like that's the part I'm good at. Like I can do that part. And like kind of, I don't deal with is not the connotation I want to use, but I can handle that kind of confrontational, whatever you would call it. And not to say that Sabiyah couldn't, but I remember so vividly the shelter that like Emily to me had a better idea, but she just didn't, she delivered it in a way that didn't make us want to do it. Like we were almost not doing that to spite her, to go with Sabiyah, who we love, who we'll talk about and talk to, whose idea was remarkably bad. It was a remarkably bad shelter idea.
You know, it was a bad. I mean, in hindsight, it was bad. Like I'm kind of like I was ready to just be a soldier. You know what I mean?
Sure. Oh, yes, same.
But yeah, I would say that was definitely one side, and the other side, when you just talk about like the interpersonal dynamics, not just like how she would like critically assess like how we wanted to do anything. She was also having a lot of trouble there, which is always like, you know, like I remember, I feel like one of the late night question games that we did, it was just like tell a deep, like tell a fact about yourself, right? And I think Emily's was like, look how I can curl my tongue. You know?
Yeah.
And people,
you go through everybody else's. Remember everybody else's.
It was like much more vulnerable and deep than that from every other person, right?
Sure. Yeah.
You know, talking about, you know, coming out, you know, family members passing away, this and that. And I just remember looking at Emily at the end of it, like, you know, like she could not have been more upset about her going first and like her turn. Cause yeah, she just, I don't know, like had so many small missteps. It's almost comical. It's like, how do you mess up this many times in a row, you know?
Yeah. The thing that I tell people when they ask about this specifically is we were talking about, I forget how the conversation came up, but it's, you know, you're at night and you're on Survivor and you're bored. So I think I asked her like what kind of music she listens to. And she said, she doesn't like music. I was like, well, what do you listen to in the car? And she said, oh, I don't. Like, I don't listen to anything. I just sit there. And then I was like, okay, like, tell me a concert. Have you been to a concert? What concert have you been to recently? Whatever. And she's like, I saw the Killers once. They were fine. Is what she said. And I had a confessional about that where I was like, in a game about like relating to people, like, give me something, you know, give me anything. But I do like now having, and you played much more of the game with Emily than I did, but even in the days that I was there, her like transition period where you had, you know, planted the seed. And I want to talk about how you had such an instrumental part in that. But there is something about Emily that made her able to recognize that herself. Like Emily, in a way that I could not course correct what I was doing, Emily could. I wrote a blog post for the confessional, which you can still Google, about people who have a bad first episode and what happens to them. And I think that I said like both Emily and I understood the assignment, but Emily like passed it. You know, Emily did the thing that she needed to do. So tell me about those 2 days and what the conversations were like. Emily is almost about to get voted out. Our dear Hannah Rose, who would have also been here, but she's in Mexico. She's always in a tropical place. She's always somewhere, you know. She will not be here, but she quits. She leaves the game. And then we have Emily. Talk about you going to Emily after that.
Yeah. So I think for me, the reason why Emily became more and more impactful as an ally is because you just kind of look at the spread of our season, and it just looked like there was a lot of power that was consolidating around Sabiyah. And so I was just getting very worried because as much as I trusted Sabiyah as an ally and I really liked her, you don't want someone to have that much individual power to be able to just change their mind about you at a moment's notice, right? And in addition, she was also picking fights with Emily. She's like, you know, like, it didn't seem like, you know, as much as Emily was unreliable, Sabiyah wasn't Emily, but, you know, there was like an element at that time where I was like, she'd done a couple of things that I was like, okay, I need to probably hedge myself a little bit. But the only problem was Emily was like actively working on trying to get me out. Right.
Yes. Yeah. The first round. I think I have that. I say that to you, I think in that first episode.
Yeah. And I couldn't believe it because I literally went up to her. I was like, I don't want to vote a woman out first. And she was like, oh, I was going to say we should target Sabiyah. I guess this is what her inner monologue said. But she's like, if Kaleb doesn't want to vote a woman out first, then we should probably just take out Kaleb because that's, that's fair. So I might have done it to myself. But yeah, anyways, I think the first place that we started, I think it was just like, we kind of like the day after of Hannah was just kind of like, let's just clear the slate. Emily, I know you've been lying to me. Here's where I think it's been. Here's why I was ready to vote for you. But if you're willing to wipe the slate, I'm open to what that looks like. And she was too. And it started off really slow. It was just basically Emily being like, I literally have nobody. So if you can give me a little bit, I will take that and I'll work up with you. She didn't expect it all at once to be, all of a sudden like an equal ally. And, my advice was really just, okay, if we're going to try and keep Emily, how can we, essentially integrate her to just be friends with people, like just to get people to like her, And so that's where, it's just a little bit about, hey, you have this commonality with Sean or this commonality with Sabiyah, like, or Brandon, or, try and have these types of conversations. And by her doing that, I was getting feedback from other people and I was like, oh, she actually is listening. She actually is trying to actively solve this. And that's where, I was feeling more and more comfortable to really kind of trust her. And it was just a weird time because it's a really vulnerable place, Survivor. And so as vulnerable as it is for Emily to be like, I'm scared, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know where, how this is going to go. It almost feels equally vulnerable to receive that, like to get that much trust from somebody. And it wouldn't have worked if we didn't like each other and get each other. But that's kind of where it all started from, was, her acknowledging that she needed to dig herself out of this hole and just kind of being open to, listening to, what ideas might look like.
Well, and now she's on Survivor 50. We're wrapping up any day now. It should be over. But like, you have that successful, I mean, you have 2 successful votes in me and then Sabiyah ultimately the next round. Like, if you had to pitch Emily as like an ally that you work with to the people in season 50, what does that sales pitch look like of like, this is why you should work with Emily on your side?
Yeah, I think that Emily is going to be one of the more like predictable and reliable allies that you would work with. That like her strength is also her flaws, that she's so logical. Right? She might sometimes forget the people element along the ways, which I think she learned in her experience on Survivor. Like, she's the classic case of like trying to win an argument, and she gets so into the argument, she forgets the big picture of like, I'm also trying to be friends with this person or have an alliance with this person or something like that. And if you can kind of just understand that she doesn't mean anything by her being so like real, you know what I mean? So concise, so reasonable, so logical. Then she's someone who is like really doesn't want to like shake the boat all the time. She really wants to like find a team and work with a team, and have agency within it. But yeah, I think that's probably the best pitch for her, is that she's gonna be exceptionally reliable. If you're into it, she's probably not gonna win a bunch of competitions at the end of the game. So if you can have a reliable vote that is ultimately gonna make it easier for you to win competitions, that's probably also gonna be advantageous. We have a star in the making, so, why wouldn't you?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. It's like, why wouldn't you hang out with, everything she says is hilarious. You know what I mean? It's like, she's a star, not just in terms of TV presence. It's just more like you hang out with her all the time. It's like, this is one of the funniest people without ever trying to be. Yeah. Just her day-to-day life. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's just being, witnessing Emily IRL in real life. You're going to restaurants, you're just seeing her interact with other people. It's just people who have no idea who she is, obviously. Most people don't know who she is. But there is a certain way about her that is, that is fun for us. But I do wonder, like, and I've said this, I believe, on this podcast, but like, I don't really have a worry for Dee as I do Emily going into season 50. Like, I can see a world where Emily does a similar thing than how she started the first time to this time. Is that a worry you think you have?
Yeah, I would say Emily is like the classic case of like a bell curve in her chances in the season. She has a really high likelihood of going home early and a really high likelihood of going home late. But if she can get to the merge, she can ride probably 4 to 7 votes and get deep. I would say that, I kind of go back and forth on this. Sometimes I think, Emily, don't do it again. You've learned so much. Don't put your foot in your mouth. But then part of me almost thinks that might be like one of the best things for her, is to kind of start from behind the 8 ball again. Maybe overplay a little bit, but not go home. Because I think that in Emily's case, people talk about a growth narrative with her. And her growth, I think, wasn't necessarily, I see people completely differently or something like that. And like, I'm never going to be who I was. She's still the same person. I think what she learned was how to where to restrain herself in certain portions. Right. Definitely still trying to build relationships first, but like restrain yourself. Like the example I would use is after you got voted out, something that was unaired was we went to the mat and people were so sad. This guy loves the game, and I think someone said it's like Jeff. Jeff's like, why were you guys have such an emotive reaction for Brandon? And someone said, Jeff, he just seemed like the heart of their tribe. And
that's what this is.
Yeah,
part of the podcast, part of the network.
And then Emily speaks up and she's like, well, Jeff, heart doesn't win Survivor, right? Which Jeff replies, actually, I've been here a long time. I think heart definitely wins Survivor, right? And Sabiyah jumps in and says, oh, I think what she means is heart only doesn't win Survivor. Like you're going to need some strength. You're going to need some brains. Like you're going to need some of the stuff if you're going to be able to get through in the tribe portion. And Emily came up to me later and was like, thank God Sabiyah said something, because if she didn't, I was going to double down. She was like, I would have said something like, well, Jeff, if Heart won Survivor, Brandon would still be here. How about that? Something along those lines.
Yeah. Fighting with Jeff, not for anything, people would have loved it. The internet would have really taken to it. Yes. That's so funny. I forgot that happened. That's really funny.
Yeah, I just feel like she kind of, it's like the real Emily is still there always, And so I think she's like, if she kind of screws up early, like something happens and she doesn't go home, I think that might just give her like the additional focus of, okay, I have to lock in the rest of the season. Sure. Versus, so I don't think that her having a misstep early is necessarily a bad thing, as long as she doesn't go home,
Not to, in this analogy that I'm going to make, refer to Emily as the student, if you will. But if you could, you have your time with Emily, and then Emily goes to this different tribe and is kind of taken in by an Austin and a Drew. What do you think in terms of like the teaching styles between you and between Austin and Drew? What do you think the difference is there, if there's a difference?
Yeah, I think that in my situation, or like working with me, I think she was just a lot more reliant on kind of like understanding like the dynamics of like the other people, because she had, taken such a step backwards. She needed that help to get to just like even, right? And so there was a lot more support needed. With Drew and Austin, she started even, right, with everybody else on that tribe. So coming in, I think she was able to know like to slow down, to start by just building relationships with people. And I think what they wanted to do was, instead of here's how to survive, it's like, here's how we can actually play the game together, right? And kind of helped paint the picture with her in terms of here's where the numbers could be, here's how we could work together and kind of, make some progress into this game. And so I think the difference would be, with myself, it's like helping her kind of recover on a social level. And I think they were able to work with her a lot more on a strategic level in terms of, here's how we can essentially run the game together,
Yeah, it's, she is coming in with such an interesting, and no secret to you, the listener, we do this poll on Rob as a Podcast a year ago of like, who do you want to be back? Build your own Survivor 50 cast. And she was so adamant that she didn't want to go back. And she wasn't even included on the poll because of that. She told somebody, I don't know if it might have been me. She was like, I do not have any interest. Don't put me on it. So the idea that she would want to go back is nuts for people still. I think when it started to pop up, people were dismissing it as a rumor because like she said so many times she didn't want to go back.
Yeah. It's funny because I think it's actually like 100% the truth. And I always say, whenever these people, like these players are talking about like, oh, I don't think I'd go back anymore. If they got the call, I think 95% of them will, right? Yeah. But what I would always say is that Emily, respectfully, say this with the most love, is one of like the only people who's crazy enough that I actually believe her.
That she would say no.
That she would say no.
Yeah.
So I think that she legitimately had no plans on coming back. Kind of when she got a call, she wasn't even planning on doing it. And then kind of throughout this process, opened herself up to the idea of it,
Yeah. Can you share, I know that, both of us, I think you much more than me, like talked to Emily before this experience. Like, what was the mindset going into this time?
The advice I would give people who asked for it was something along the lines of, listen, and they've done this before, they know it's like, you're probably going to lose anyways, right? Have fun. You know what I mean? You know, I think people who, and that's the nice part about 50 and some of these returning seasons, like they know who they're calling. You know, people are not coming back to neuter themselves like from their first experience just to try and make it to the end, right? But it was just kind of like that reassurance that it's just like, you know, they brought you back because of, you know, this unbelievable like personality that you have that's so unique. And the thing about you specifically, Emily, is that I actually think it's one of your biggest advantages to be that real and authentic, because I think there's just something that's naturally trustworthy about that compared to, you know, like when I met you and I look at you compared to Emily, one of the challenges I had was just like, this guy seems like so, I mean, normal, like social, sweet guy. It was almost like there's a little bit of fishiness to it. It's like, where's the, you know, like, is this the guy who's going to try and stab me in the back? When you hang out with Emily and you just have Emily be unfiltered Emily, you have this realization. It's like, dude, this girl's 1,000% being real with me, you know?
Yes, I see that. I definitely see that.
So I was just saying, like, yeah, have fun. And actually, like, it's actually probably one of your superpowers of being real, because as long as you're not showing your hand completely, like, I think that people underestimate you or really trust you from just your authenticity.
Do you think that the new era folks, like they've met Emily and they love Emily. They've met Emily when you and I have been around Emily. Like we've seen the interactions, you know. Was she there when we were just in Boston? She was in Boston. She was, yeah. We're in the Airbnb with Emily. We're sitting at that table, you know. Put a pin. But I lost my train of thought. I was thinking about this, thinking about the table.
For new era people meeting Emily.
Yeah, new era people meeting Emily. And that charm carries because the new era people are watching the show. They love the show. They meet Emily, and it's like you're meeting a character from your show. Yeah. I wonder if the old guard has that same reverence for somebody that, like, back in the, and I do not think Emily is annoying. I'm on record. I don't think Emily was annoying. But like the older folks in old Survivor, when you were annoying, you got voted out. Like, you know, you'd look at, you know, the first couple of people voted from, you know, Colby and Stephanie LaGrossa and all these people, like being socially not full of tact used to bite you in a way that it doesn't as much anymore, because we're all gamifying it to where, like, we have to keep, you know, it's like Q says to Banu, it's like the wackadoodles win, you know. Do you think the old guard will have that same reverence for Emily?
I don't know if reverence would be the right word, but I think that, you know, I think just authenticity will always land if people feel like they're really getting to know the real you. I think that a lot of what would kind of turn people off, it's like, especially if somebody was being like shticky or like trying to go out of their way to kind of put on this persona or this character and it came off annoying, like that would be like the number one thing I think that would annoy people from the old era specifically, because they've seen all of that and they hate it, right?
Yes.
But if somebody's just, being themselves, you know, and it's like a character like Emily, like, you know, the thing is, I think Emily might dislike more of the old era people than the old era might dislike her. You know, I think that's the bigger problem, you know?
Yeah, talking with her beforehand, like she knows, you know, in where D has not seen most of those new era seasons, Emily has, and I think has opinions, which I'm very curious to see how she, you know, the Emily and Colby conversation is almost more interesting to me than Emily and Coach, because like Coach, and not to say that Colby isn't funny, I don't know Colby, but Coach is funny. Like Coach, they can have a good banter that will show in confessional. But like, I don't know what Emily and Colby talk about. I don't know what that looks like. I think about it a lot. I don't know what the conversation is.
We'd be so lucky, you know, for
oh my God.
Extended time there, because that is like, talk about, like in the Venn diagram of not knowing, like not having commonality, you know, they're like in the perfect center of it. Like, I don't know what Colby would say or Emily would say in that situation. I think that Emily would probably assume the worst on someone like Colby versus the best initially. And Colby's probably the same. I mean, that's, I could see her getting along with Coach. I could see her getting along with Stephanie, honestly. She's been around the block with all of this stuff, right?
For sure. And I think that Emily, I don't think Emily's intensity and forthrightness is off-putting in the same way that, and you just said it, like the people who are going to come in and like really ham it up, I think is infinitely more off-putting. Like Emily's version of hamming it up is just being herself. Like it's not, there's no performance that's happening. That's just what she does. Whereas, and I don't know if this is what Coach will do on this tenure on Survivor, but like when Coach comes back from Tocantins to Heroes versus Villains, he's got catchphrases and I said this to JT and Coach, he's writing Dragon Slayer on all the votes. He's like, he came in with material, whereas Emily's not coming in with material.
No. I think Emily, it's like the perfect Emily. It's almost like the Michael Scott thing, where it's like, if he just said the third thing that came to mind, he would never get into trouble. Emily needs to check herself and do like the second thing. And that's probably the mix between TV and great player. You know what I mean? The first thing that comes to mind is such high variance that it could be what makes people fall in love with her. I'll still send her home. But like that second thing, I think that's a sweet spot. And then, the third spot is, probably the safest, but I'm hoping that she just goes with the second thing that comes to mind the most.
Can you talk through Emily in terms of I'm hoping that Emily makes it all the way. I'm really hoping that she's not out. But Emily as a juror, what was the post Emily gets voted off? You've been in the jury for a couple days now. Like, what is Emily processing the game look like?
I didn't ever consider that question. Right. So first of all, I mean, I don't know if there's going to be what twist there's going to be, and like if the jury's going to be able to have Emily, she's bright and early. Let's grab a drink in the morning. Let's grab a drink in the afternoon. Let's grab a drink in the evening. She's going to have some fun. She's probably going to take a little bit of time to decompress if she does go out early. But what I think in terms of how she looks at the game, it's interesting because I think when she came out in our season, she had probably the closest ties to Drew on a personal level and a strategic level. And I think that in some ways she was advocating for who she thought was playing the best game, but it also correlated with the person who she had the best relationship with. So that's interesting, right? When Drew went out of the game, I think that, she kind of, there's like that question kind of took care of itself. And she really was focused on like who played the best game and think about it from that perspective, and wasn't really too hard of feelings, in terms of the people who betrayed her. Julie played an idol. We would have been totally happy to play for Julie, to vote for Julie, who didn't make it to the end. So I think that, Emily as a juror is like very open to talking about the game, which some people aren't, and is ultimately like what would be the best, what would be the best winner for our season. I think she comes in with that mindset, which is great, but it also comes from a little bit about placement. I feel like the most vindictive people are the people who got voted out right at the end, not necessarily in the first half of the jury, right?
Yeah. Yes. That's super, super interesting. I want her to win. Do you have any insight, speaking of winners? She's there with D. You were there with me and all of us just a couple months ago. We were all together. This wasn't even a thought for D at that point. Do you have any insight who would turn on each other first between the two of them?
So interesting, because, the way I would look at it is, as much as I would say Emily's a very loyal person, I think that if you're in with D, she's about as loyal of a friend and an ally as you could find, right? And, I really do think that she would like die swinging for her people. But the second that she gets a whiff that you might not be as in on her, I think that she's also very ready to take out the scissors and cut you if that's the case, right? And so I think that between those two, the question would be, does Emily give D signs about, I might be working with other people? That's not necessarily even against D, you know what I mean? And in that situation, I could see D cutting Emily first, right? But ultimately, as long as they have good communication, I think that they would try and work together as much as they could in this game. What do you think?
I have that same thought. I don't think Emily has this like gear that's like, I want to like beat D the same way that like people have talked about like Stephanie LaGrossa and Suri of like, we had Rachel Riley on this podcast as well as Michael Davidson, who played the traders with Suri, where they said Stephanie does not have that. But like, I've been hearing that Stephanie feels that way about Suri just because of the history, beats Suri at Survivor. Beats Stephanie at Survivor. Suri beats Stephanie at the traders, beats Stephanie at Stake in the Grass. Like, I'm sure there's something. Whereas I don't think Emily has that. I think my fear is that Emily is in fear, in a strong word. Emily is in an alliance of people that D just wouldn't be in an alliance with. Like, I think that D's group and Emily's group, if they were to make granted, they both have Drew, but I can see Emily gravitating to your Christians and your Rick Devinses, and D is maybe leaning towards your Jonathans and your Joes and your Stephanie LaGrossa. So I think their alliances will be at war at a certain point, and it just is a matter of who has the numbers.
Yeah, and who's willing to actually advocate for the other, and I think that's one of Emily's regrets in our season is that she was on the inside while I was on the outside at the merge, and she didn't push the case hard enough of trying to keep myself, someone who would have been a loyal number with her, right? And so I do think that Emily would probably try and course correct if she could, but I don't think either of them would necessarily jump on the grenade outside of telling them, hey, it's time to play your shot in the dark, right, to the other person, and to try and save them like Kyle and Camilla. I don't think either of them would go that far, Well,
and that's exactly right. It's because they're not that close. Like, they're not. I think that in a world where you and Emily are both there, or Kelly and D are both there, that it's a different. Like, even if you're in opposing alliances, there's that connected. Like, D and Emily are like good friends, certainly. Like, they, but I don't think that they before this have had that relationship to where if you're returning on a season, there are like Genevieve's going in by herself. Emily and D are going in together, but essentially, like, there's no Kyle and Camilla going in together are a different thing. Like, that is a definitively different thing than what we have with our two people.
Yeah, I would definitely say that. I think people probably know it's hard in Survivor because you kind of have to assume the worst. So it's like, well, they've done all these events together, they must be super tight, or assume that they're super tight, and no one's gonna watch this until they're back. So yeah, but I would agree with you that they're very good friends, but it's not like they're like texting each other all the time or like really. Yeah, it's like,
yeah, I think the barometer for a close friend is like, do you guys FaceTime like ever? Like, do you ever, is there ever a FaceTime call that happens not about this direct thing? Which I don't think that's happening, but I could be wrong. I mean, maybe I don't know, but I don't think so.
Yeah. Not as far as I know, but it's like, it was, this whole 50 thing. And like, as you get closer to the finish line of actually going out there, I think the amount of pregame that happened like right at the finish line, like over the last few weeks or month, considering how long the casting process was, right? I think, exponentially increased. And so I'm not even 100% sure on the latest of how everything was looking right before.
In terms of Emily's prep for 50, do you have any insight into what she was doing to get ready, if there was anything that she was doing?
Emily's prep, I remember talking to her and giving her some ideas like what the ideal prep might look like, right?
Sure.
I think she was getting into just like general fitness prep. I don't think she was doing a ton of puzzle prep. What do you think? Did you hear anything about puzzles?
I didn't hear anything about any prep. I sent her, I was like, do you want like info? And she was like, hey, sure. Like, and then I sent her the very few tidbits that I sent D of just like how people know each other and what have you. But I don't know in terms of, it's so funny. We were in Disney whenever that was, in January, February. And you and D go to the gym. You guys are at the gym. And Emily, to me, we're in the hotel room. We had a very big hotel room. Emily was like, I run like many miles a day. And I was like, yeah. I was like, I don't doubt that. And she's like, yeah, but she's like, I don't want to work out when everybody else is working out. Like, I'll just take the day off or something. And I'm like, all right, pretty good. So I know that she's doing she's doing something, but she's keeping it close to the vest.
Yeah, I think she's like she has a bit of a cardio regiment that she started. I remember talking to her in February. She's like, Kaleb, I'm doing really great at it. And I talked to her in March. She's like, yeah, I haven't done it in weeks. So it's like, it depends on the weather with Emily. I remember like, Emily, you're leaving in like a month. How's it going? She's like, I know, I'm gonna get into it, and I think she did. But yeah I think she's just gonna. I think she's gonna go in as a natural. You know what I mean? We'll see how she's better than last time, but I don't think it's gonna be like leaps and bounds like she's trained for this for the last 2 years.
What was the last conversation that you two had before she left? Do you remember what the conversation was like?
Yeah, I mean, we spoke probably either in the car ride to the hotel or something like that. And it was just, I think it was just like a lot of like the shock of the moment was finally like washing over. So it was just, it was more so just banter. Honestly, like I'm a guy, it's like, there's, it's like, you're not going to study for a test 10 minutes before you're about to take it.
Sure.
So at this point, you might as well loosen up. So I think it was just literally us just shit talking the entire time and just like having as much fun as we could. And then just, I can't wait to talk to you when you land and vice versa. And kisses goodbye. So it was something like that, just loosen up,
And that's good advice. She could use that advice, I'd love to ask you, just because, season 50, there were a lot of people in contention, certainly. Talk about, for you, season 50 is happening. What's the group like for you? How do you feel about the group?
So, I mean, looking at the 50 cast, it's the perfect mix. You're never gonna, everyone's not gonna be happy, no matter what the cast is, right? And I would say if you're looking at this cast, you're probably looking at like a very small percentage where it's like, oh, could this person or this person be in instead? Like I look at this as somebody who was in the process and, feel totally comfortable that I look at a group of people who like represent the last 50 seasons, and have like no ill will whatsoever. I'm excited for the season. I mean, I do think there's probably some people in some other seasons who maybe are looking at this and wondering where they could have been in this, in a couple of other people's spots, but that's never been my perspective. Being cut, I was totally at peace with it because, this is for the history of the whole show. I think I would definitely say to anybody from the new era who feels like they could have been on this, there will probably be another returning season that will be even more new era focused. Right. Sure. And that might be like an eye on like the future of like where we're going next. And this is, I think, a great celebration of the history of where we are now. I'm an optimist, so take it with a grain of salt, but that's kind of how I look at it. I could give you like, well, what other questions do you have specifically?
Well, just tell me who you're excited to see from this group that's not one of our people. No Emily or David. Who are you excited? You're underreported story, a super fan of Survivor. You know all these people the same way that people that are listening to this know all these people. So who are you most excited to see come back and play again?
Yeah, I mean, I love, me, I love people who play a social game and people who play a strategic game. I look at someone like Jenna and I think, man, this is going to be crazy. She was about as confident as it gets, like look quietly, you know what I mean? So you wonder how that's going to necessarily, like, if she can do that in the new era format, because it's totally different, right? I would say that, I mean, there's a lot of people here who I like, but I would say, like, if I was to pick, 3 people, I would say probably Jenna. I would probably give, I'm trying not to say the obvious, like the Christians and,
sure.
Like I'm trying to go a little bit more niche. You know what? I don't know if this is niche. This is like just a zag on the internet maybe, but I would be excited to see Rick Devens play again.
Yeah, Rick Devens is so fun for me to see back. I mean, I love The Edge of Extinction this season, so I am so excited to see what he can bring to this group of people. And when I talked to Gavin, I was like, there is something that comes with Rick's already been voted out. Rick is really the person in this season who got voted out the earliest on their first try, who then happened to be in a season where that mechanism was in there that he could come back. But I think there's something really interesting about that, to where, he's going to be voting off the 4th person of the season of 24. I mean, he knows how it feels. And I think there's a way to kind of use that to your advantage. Whereas, You have Sari, who had gone early once. You have Colby, who went relatively early. Aubry's gone early. But really, that's not across the board an experience that many people have had.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny because like obviously I big sports fan as well. And so there's always this thing in sports, they talk legacy talk,
Sure.
right? And you look at somebody like Rick, who played such a, in some ways, dominant game, right? Using idols, playing winning immunity, and kind of being on the bottom for so long, which sucks, by the way, right? I did it for a few days, and I was like, "This is miserable." Like, so sad,
He did it for like a month. He was on the bottom for a month.
Yeah. So anyways, so you look at someone like that and it's kind of like, but people think like, oh, like, was it too advantage heavy? Like, could he have played a different social strategic game? So it feels like he's like a good person where if there's those questions, like, again, you can't take anything away from his first time playing, but it maybe can like help kind of like really wash those away finally, so it's, that'll be an interesting one. And then if I was to go for a third person, if I was to pick somebody from, oh man, I have so many people here, but if I had to pick someone from the new era, I would probably say it's tough. I'm really stuck between probably Q and Genevieve as two people I'm very, very excited to see, because Q is such a wild card and a bit of a dumpster fire that you kind of think there's no way that this guy can do this again, right? Like, who's going to fall for this? And, there's a great chance, that he could go out at any point in the game. Like, Emily's bell curve is like this. He's like right here, but it would be entertaining if we could see him kind of push through. And then Genevieve, I think out of everybody there, if she can, like, she has a great shot of winning the game somebody who, if I'm, putting chips on one person right now, I think I'm going to go Genevieve. I think she can get along with the old era. I think she can get along with new era. She's not too hot. She's not too cold, socially, physically. She can fit in with the threats, but she can also be like, I'm obviously not a threat. I see her kind of fitting into all these places, and with so many big targets around her, I think it'll be easier for her to not, be the tallest poppy in the field.
Sure. What an analogy. Do you think Survivor's casting everybody to win, or do you think they're casting people that they know won't win, but they know will be fun?
No, I mean, how many people, when you went on to Survivor 45, if you were like, there's 18 people going on, how many people did you think actually had a chance to win?
I did this in my notebook.
People that we actually know. I'm just saying, like, coming in, what was your thinking of it?
I bet you like 8 maybe out of 18, I think.
Yeah.
Is your number less than that?
Mine was it probably about there. I was going to probably say like 8 to 10,
Okay.
As people who could win. And yeah, there's going to be probably half, maybe a little bit less than half, that probably have no real chance to win. And we don't have to go down the list, but what do you think? Like, you feel like it's probably a little bit less on a returning season, but I'd probably say there's probably like, maybe like 25%.
That was my question, is on a returnee season, on Survivor 50, how many of the 24 do you think, and we can pull up the graphic again, but how many of these people do you think have a legitimate shot to win Survivor 50?
I probably would say, I don't know. I mean, like, it's you never know what happens, but I would say you're probably looking at like, 2/3 of the cast, maybe 3/4. Like, I'd probably say there's a lot of people here who have a chance to win on a returning season, on this season.
Sure.
I wouldn't underestimate many of these people. The people who you worry about are like just, liabilities physically, that they might be picked off early, liabilities, maybe in terms of, managing their threat levels, something we both have some experience in,
So I got a podcast.
I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that's high, or do you feel like it's low?
I think my number is the same. I think it's about 8 people. I don't think it's a ton of people. Like, I think about a Q, whereas I think Q could win the first time. I don't think Q is in the group that can't win. I think now Q is in the group that can't win. I think Coach is in the group that can win Tocantins and then is not Heroes vs. Villains. Where I think a couple people transition to the other group, whereas I don't think anybody, maybe Emily is a great example of was maybe cast to not win and to be fun, but now can win.
Yeah, 1,000%. She is like the epitome of that. I think that they were like licking their lips when they casted Emily, and they were like, this girl is going to be just this flaming comet that goes out so fast.
Sure.
And yeah, I mean, like anyone can surprise you on these things. But I think that, yeah, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of also like when we talk about legacy and the history of themselves on these shows that, you know, if they play it right, you know, you're telling me Colby has no chance to win? Was he one of your 8? I don't even know.
He's not one of my 8. No, I don't think there's a shot that Colby has to win. I think that Colby can get deep, and what a beautiful story. I mean, I like as a super fan of Survivor, hell yeah for Colby winning. But I don't think he's got it. I don't think he's got it. I really don't think any of the older folks got it. Let me see. I'm going to pull up the graphic a third time. I don't think. Yeah, am I crazy? Like, I don't think any of the people, you know, people have thrown around Christian, and I would love Christian to win. Nobody wants Christian to win more than me, other than Gabby Pascuzzi.
That would be awesome. What a season that'd be.
What a season. But, like, are you letting Christian get past the final 8 of the game, the final 6? Like, where he went out last time, it seems unlikely. And then I guess I'm looking at this and seeing the people's flaws from the last time and wondering if they can beat out those flaws. Whereas you have, like, you know, my winner pick, I've said many times, is D. But, like, the more that I did these podcasts, like Joe, like, oh my God, like these older folks, they love Joe. Joe did season 48. And he's with Kyle and Camilla, who obviously are an obstacle. You know, he has Camilla on the jury that they, you know, ultimately rides for Kyle. But like, it seems like the new era's got it. But I could be totally wrong.
Yeah, I like the Joe pick a lot, and I like the D pick as well. The D pick is just the classic case of, you know, she's coming in burning hot in terms of probably the best winner of the new era. Many would argue. You know, just came off the challenge, you know, is, you know, I don't know, just like, there's a lot going for her before Survivor, after Survivor. So I almost wonder that, you know, does that kind of catch up to her in the same way that it might for Christian? She's not like as outwardly as charismatic as Christian, which isn't a big statement. He's probably a top, you know, 5 or 10 in the whole series, you know, but, you know, all the things that you're saying about, burning too bright. I do think it applies to D. That's why I'm worried about her, you know?
Yeah. I don't know why I don't have that same worry. I mean, because I feel like it's so likely that she's probably out early, I'm not worried about it because it feels like, you know, so like I said to Kelly Wentworth on here, I said, you know, D as a winner pick is crazy, but think about how cool I'll sound if it's right. You know what I mean? If she makes it to the end and wins, it's a pretty good pick. Yeah. I worry for Emily that Emily gets in her own way, which leads to an early demise. But with D just has the resume leading up to it, where if you're going to a tribal council, there's 8 people. Everybody wants a win, and she's the only winner on the team. Kyle's on a different team. It's like, why wouldn't we vote out D? It would be crazy to not vote out D at that spot.
Yeah, it's like you look at Sari getting popped in the first half of Hero of Villains. You know, it's just like she didn't play herself into that spot as much as, you know, it was just like she had a bounty on her head that people were coming for. And, you know, people have that mentality. That's kind of where D gets screwed, but she's not going to screw herself. She's not going to like fumble. And yeah. So I totally see what you're saying there. And I mean, it'll be interesting. I mean, she better not hope not to run into Jenna Lewis. You know, she doesn't like it's like
that was actually, I could read it. That was my last text to D. I was like, I had told her about Jenna Lewis, you know, days prior, but I'm like, by the way, I forgot to tell you, she doesn't like the winners. So be careful. Which, you know, I hope that she's rethought that, because there's only 2 winners. But I think that really, and I said this to D also, D and Jenna Lewis get along great. I think from the little that I know of Jenna Lewis, seeing her on TV twice 20 years ago, like that makes sense to me. The pairing that they would find each other very funny, as would Emily. I think that that's a great ally. And I texted D that I'm like, listen, if she's on your tribe, you know, she wants the gun for the winners, but go for that. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Do you think that 49 is long for this world and 50? The 2 unnamed
0%.
people?
It would be, again, not to keep referencing what I told Emily and Dee, but I sent them the list of everybody who's done a back-to-back season and how well they do. Zeke is the lowest placing person at 10th place out of 20. Everybody else is 8th or above. Nobody's won. Nobody's won their second back-to-back, but Rupert's 4th. Amanda Kimmel is 2nd on Micronesia. You know,
Russell.
You have a couple. Russell's 3rd. You know,
Malcolm,
you have those people. Malcolm as well. Like, there's no reason. And it's a good thing for Dee to know when everybody's looking at Dee as there's no reason to keep you. It's like, what about this fucking guy or gal? Like, we don't know this person. You know, like I don't know what the extent of the pre-gaming was with the whole group, but like, we didn't know this person existed until we got here. You know what I mean? Like, what's the reason to keep that person? So with love, the 49 people, if you ever watch this, I think you're both lovely. I don't know you. I've never talked to you, but I think you're great.
It's tough, you know, sorry. Like, you know, 49 is kind of forgotten already. And now it's like, that's what anyone who asked, I was like, I mean, tell those people not even to unpack their bags, you know? Like,
yeah. I mean, you know, you won't be that hungry, I don't think. It just seems like which is interesting, is, you know, that I've seen being floated online, like, why would you even go was thrown out there. But like, then why would Russell go? Why would Malcolm go? Like, you gotta go. If they call you, you have to go.
That's the only reason you sign up to be on 49 is to have a chance to be on 50, you know?
Yeah. I wonder, like, historically, the odds of them putting somebody from 49 onto 50 were good. Because every time they do a big thing, there's somebody back to back.
Besides Winners at War, right?
What was that?
Besides Winners at War?
Besides Winners at War. And then second chance because they had the benefit of watching it all the way through. Like, the people who haven't ever seen you play. Like, that's only happened a few times. But I wonder, playing Survivor 49, if that's a thought that everybody's having of like, I'm playing with fucking Colby in a couple months. You know what I mean? Like, I'm chilling. You know, I wonder if anybody was playing with that mindset, which I also think is bad. To do that on 49 and then to come in on 50 and try to do that again. Like, nobody wants to buy that on 50.
Yeah. That's something, when you keep flashing over and you see the 2 big question marks, I'm like, you know, I do have a little bit of sympathy, as much as I don't, you know what I mean? It's like, what a 2-year run, you know what I mean? That you're on, you know? Like,
there's no shot. It would shock me if that, I mean, I think really the same about, unfortunately, Kyle and Camilla. I think Joe, because Joe feels so much like a Colby and an Ozzy in that group, that Joe might be good for a while. But I think the same of Kyle and Camilla. It just seems like you're going in with, not only did Kyle win a week ago and a week before they left, and Camilla was the number one, who was the huge strategic force of that twosome alliance. Like, it just seems like a weird place for them to then go in, be waving to each other from the immunity challenge, and then nobody's like, should we take care of that? Should we do something about that? I don't know.
Yeah, I completely agree. It sucks, but it's almost like, you know, me and Emily were kind of looking at one point, it was like, damn, it would be really tough if you and I were on the same season coming back. Like, this, the way this is working out, because you look at Kyle and Camilla, it's like, even if they make it to the merge, which would be crazy, there's no way they'll be allowed to ride it out. You know what I mean? It's like 48, one person's going to get popped pretty quickly, you would imagine.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so whoever gets there first, and Joe might be the only one who can get away with it, but between Kyle and Camilla's tribes, like, that's just probably, and I especially feel worried about Camilla, you know?
Yeah. I mean, oftentimes in the twosomes, the woman does go first. And a lot of the times the woman is the better player. Like, I think about like a Chelsea and DK Chillin who get targeted at that early stage of Island of the Idols. Like, they vote off Chelsea because Chelsea's the threat. You know what I mean? I think Camilla, like, and Kyle's always going to be the threat. Camilla's the threat. So it'll be interesting.
I agree.
But you and Emily would have had that same thing. It doesn't matter if you played 2 years ago or last week. Like, you going in would have had the same target.
Yeah, 1,000%. And that's where you look at like almost like a Q and a Tiffany, and that's a much more interesting relationship, because these are two people who, on paper, actually really disliked each other most of the game.
Yeah.
So there's not like the sense of, but at the same time, no one's dumb. Like, these guys have been talking for 2 years and have hung out a bunch and like have met each other's families and like done all this stuff. It's like, you know, you're telling me that those two are not working together? You're crazy. They want you to think they're working together, you know?
The long con of the century is what that is, you know, and they got Charlie too. They have 3 people. They got everybody. That group is the most interesting, I think, of the threesomes. I think the Dave vs. Goliath threesome is also extremely interesting, maybe a little bit more. But I think the 46 people, like, they all want to like get each other, whereas I think the 37 people they're huge personalities, maybe the three biggest on the cast, but they want to play together, I think, whereas these people, I don't think want to play together for even a couple days, the three.
It's when rubber meets the road, you always start with the people you have the best relationships with, right? And I think that I don't know. I think that 47 is, or 46, I think, is the long con of, I think there is been group chats and lots of conversation, and they're outwardly saying, I can't trust this Q. I can't trust Tiffany. She tried to vote me out. I can't trust Charlie. He was playing all of us. And like, that's what I heard. That's what I was being told, hanging out with them at these events. And, the more you try and sell me on it, the more I'm like, you got to be a little bit like, you got to have like your sense up a little bit,
Sure.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
we did it.
Fun run. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. You feel good about Emily's chances? You still feel worried? You think that ultimately that is she could get in her own way? That's all your final takeaway?
That's the fear. I think that, and I hope she doesn't. And really, after last time, like, you would hope that she would. Like, you would hope that happened. But I think like I love Survivor so much, and I love the storytelling of Survivor so much, and what a tragic story of like Emily escapes being voted out first because of whatever, comes back into this thing, is overwhelmed, and that happens again. It's like, I think from a storytelling perspective, I don't want this to happen at all. But like no matter what happens, like, death will find you. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I like how
Final
Andy.
Destination.
What was that? Say that again.
Final Destination.
Andy gets voted out in season 47 for largely a similar thing that was going to get him the first round, which is like this needing of folks to, and I don't want to put words in Andy's mouth by any means, of like the validation that he needed from Rachel to go back to the jury and tell everybody that I'm playing such a good game, and then Rachel idles him out, like, is similar to what happens to Andy at the beginning of the game. Like, it's beautiful storytelling. I don't want it to happen, but it's a beautiful thing. My prediction for Emily, if not that, probably like, I think Emily faces the similar Christian problem of like, you can't let Emily get to the end because Emily's going to win. I don't know. I hope the people that are there recognize that she's that good of a player. I guess if they don't, she could win. But my guess, if I had to put a number on it, if it's not early, 8th, 6th.
Okay. Was she 8th boot on her season?
She was 7th last time. I think it's a great spot for her, is that between 8 and 6.
Yeah, I that's kind of where, and I actually even nudge her a little bit further. I think that Emily, like, the best thing I could dream for her is to kind of have that fumble early. I know she'd hate it in the moment, and it would be also like the best TV product. But I think that if that happens, I really do think that she's going to lock in. I think that she is going to do better than people think when it comes to establishing bonds this time. I think she actually has more friends than she realizes, kind of looking at this cast. And so,
for sure,
the amount of people who are like, I think Emily's out first, that I've heard or have said to me. And I don't think so. I mean, if she's going on the pre-merge, it's probably that first boot, that she's going to tribal council.
No doubt. It's the first one that her tribe goes to, no doubt. Yeah. But I don't know. There's a couple of first boots on the table with this group. Like, there's a couple of people that bill makes sense for. We did the first boot draft, if you're a Rob as a Podcast patron. Not outdated until February 2026, but we all guessed who the first boot would be. People throw out Stephanie LaGrossa, Jenna Lewis. Who else? Q was a first boot contender. Mike White was a first boot contender. So we'll have to just see.
Yeah, Mike White is like also one of those guys where it's just, you would think that no one's gonna fall for this, right? The White Lotus carrot that he can dangle in front of people, but there's this thing about high performing people where they high perform in so many different places that it's just like, I just always go with track record. I just feel like he's going to figure it out and he's going to make another fun and deep run.
He'll be there deep. I think that everybody, and again, he's my all-time favorite Survivor player, famously. He is he will find a way. I think that if he is,
that's crazy.
Oh yeah. Before this show that everybody thinks I'm not getting on the show. They're not putting me on HBO. I can barely secure what I have here on this screen.
What's your favorite Mike White moment?
I just think, well, really, and not to get deep, but Mike White did what I wanted to do, which is that he is, there's struggles in the challenges, certainly mental thing, what have you, but like Mike White was so funny, and Mike White was so social, and Mike White gets to the end undetected because he is social and funny, and he's doing like the same Rob Cesternino, Tyson, Cochran, Aubry, like is funny. In the confessionals, it's like, I think all of these shows benefit from having, and I'm not saying I'm a comedian by any means, but any of these shows that have somebody who is funny, like Rob Cesternino, who's now on The Traitors, is like every episode delivering material in the confessionals. Like Survivor is an inherently funny thing. We are people signing up that we have lives, we have apartments, like we are signing up to suffer and feel this thing. Like it's an inherently silly thing to be doing. So to have somebody narrating and be silly, and that's the reason that people liked him so much, is just that he was good morale, funny, not too much of anything. And when I got to Survivor, like that's what I wanted. It didn't happen. But I think that
you have faith in his resilience in terms of like still showing that kind of sparkle, no matter what the circumstance, no matter what the tribe. And
I think that he has that in a way that I don't think that goes away. I think that, his Emmy acceptance speech, I love a lot, where he wins this Emmy for the White Lotus. And he says, he compares it to his time on Survivor. He's like, Survivor's all about raising your threat level and lowering your threat level. I don't want to raise my threat level in Hollywood. I love it here. I just want to keep playing, like just keep making more television is his quote. And I think that's the mindset he's going in here also, is he just like, he loves, he's signing up to go again when he has more money than fucking anybody who's going on this show, like by a lot,
maybe Robinson, I don't know your earnings.
I think that's true. I have faith in him that he wouldn't go if he didn't think he'd make a run. Like I think he knows that he'll make a run. So I don't feel anything. I feel no nervousness there. You would have been really good on the White Lotus. You would have had a really fun cameo in the White Lotus.
You said Q, right?
You.
Oh, yeah.
He was not going to the fucking White Lotus.
Well, it's funny. It's like now he was like, okay, if we're going to really make a run at this for so many more seasons, I'm going to need a bigger pool.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is, I think.
Okay, well, last thing we'll do is who do you think is like, top draft picks for White Lotus?
So bring up the graphic. I think Colby.
Have you done this already? I don't know. I don't want to like step on other pods.
This is the first time we're doing it. This is also so much fun. I'm having a ball. Colby.
Oh yeah.
Previous actor, famously was in an episode of Joey, the Friends spinoff, which you all love, Joey, and The Red Eye, which is a Rachel McAdams movie that I have on DVD. He is an actor. Good actor.
Just curb your enthusiasm. That's
sure. He, you know what? He acted in that and he was great. Also on HBO. Maybe there's some connective tissue there. The thing that I have said I said it to Gavin. I don't think there's anybody who makes a meal out of the White Lotus appearance more than Rick Devens. I think Rick Devens not only wants it bad, but also will really try to make it happen. I think I think maybe over half of these people want it to happen, but Rick Devens is going to make it happen.
Yeah. Rick, it's like you miss 100% of shots you don't take. Like he's gonna look for the job, at the end. Yeah. It's funny. Yeah, I was gonna say. So my thought was D. I think D is just this rocket ship right now, and not just talk about her experiences, but it's just like like this magnetic person that I think that you just hang out with her and you just like watch her about and you're like, oh, this girl, I could see her being on film. And then the other person I was going to say would be Jonathan. I don't know. You just feel like you see that gorilla walk somewhere, maybe, it's just like,
sure. When the White Lotus takes place in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, they throw out Jonathan. He would make sense there. That's definitely. International, I know, but D's a good pick. I think D's a great pick. Jonathan, if you listen to this, that's not a dig. I love you. That's not anything. It just would make sense.
Yeah, it's kind of like there's this NBA player who's been in Adam Sandler's movie, the Hustle. No, what was the one with the basketball one? Now he's in Happy Gilmore 2. And it's just kind of like you have this. It's Boban. Is that if I didn't say the name? And you just have this unique look.
Mm-hmm. What is his name?
Boban.
I don't know who that is. I was thinking, who's the NBA player that's in Uncut Gems?
Oh, Kevin Garnett.
Yeah, he was great in that. He's a good actor.
Yeah. That one's and Anthony Edwards is another guy who was in one of those movies. But I would say, Kevin Garnett, he was great. I just look at like sometimes you have this like unique look, and sometimes like that's where it's just like, oh, you can pick that up. But you're right. What setting would it have to be for Jonathan to be on there? Ugh, it's like, yeah. Australia.
Does Kevin Garnett, does he play still?
Retired. Yeah, he's famously was on the Minnesota and the Celtics, and then eventually Brooklyn and Minnesota again. What a run!
What a run! 4 great places. We've been in 2 of those places together. We haven't been to Minnesota together, but we've been to Brooklyn and we've been to Boston. Tell people where they can find your stuff. Where can people keep up with you?
Yeah, I mean, easiest place right now is on Instagram. Just my name, Kaleb Gebrewold. Also on Twitter, although I haven't tweeted for a while. I am planning on getting back more into social media again. I say this every time I do one of these, but I'm already on a better trajectory this year than I have been the last 2 years. So you guys just stay tuned.
Sure. I love you. I love you so much. This is so much fun for me.
Yeah.
This is why. Listen, this isn't why you should play Survivor by any means, but look at what great things come out of this. This is what we do when we just talk on the phone for an hour. So I'm
literally, I do find that like I talk to you, I talk to Sabiyah, like, there are people who are just like, oh, that was literally a podcast. Like that was hilarious.
We did it.
Yeah.
We're here. Stay tuned. We got more on Emily Flippen coming in this episode of the Survivor 50 Files. Don't go anywhere. We got more coming. Thank you, everybody.
Hey.
And we're back.
We were just laughing before I
that was so like shocking, nervous system wise. I was like, I don't know. It's like
we're back to talk about Emily. We've got another great guest, one of my people, famously one of my people. We've gotten perspectives from Kaleb about those first couple days of Emily, and we're here to get another perspective. My great friend, Sabiyah Broderick. Sabiyah, how are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for having me on to talk about one of my favorite subjects, Emily, in the beginning of Survivor 45. Yeah. I feel like I've been waiting for this my whole life, and I just couldn't be happier. It's great to see you, Brandon. I love you.
How fun is this? We just get to chat. Isn't this nice?
I know. Like, look at you. Like, this is the perfect job ever for you. Like, literally, we would be doing this either way. So it's cool.
I'm having a great time. And I had a great time with Kaleb, which if you're listening, you just heard me talk about Kaleb. Talk to Kaleb about, our dear friend Emily. Emily kind of came into her own in Survivor 45. And it's one of the best stories of the new era, maybe of Survivor of all time. But Sabiyah, we didn't see that, right?
They left it out. I don't know why she saved it for the end. Like, we wanted Rise from the Ashes, Emily,
Yeah.
And I guess that just wasn't part of our edit. But yeah, I mean, we had a blast though. Honestly, I wish they showed how much we laughed more. It was just a lot of crying, a lot of woe is me, but it was also paired with some great laughs, great moments.
Yeah.
That I just don't feel like the fans really got to see. I don't know about you.
The thing that you watch, you and I will watch the Yanu tribe from 46, your Jelinskis, your Bonus, whatever.
PTSD.
Right. And then you see Ula tribe from this last season who have a similar situation, but they didn't look like they were having fun. And we were having fun.
I feel like it's just the people, like the person. Honestly, I don't know anybody that could be in a room, bar, or anything with the six of us, really, including Hannah, like, and not literally probably produce tears within 30 minutes. They are like, y'all are some of the funniest people I ever met, period. Like,
Emily included.
yeah, exact. Oh, Emily, top
I think
top of the
top.
list. Like,
Tell
I
me
was gonna
about.
say,
Oh,
you
go ahead.
talk about a group of people and you say like, oh yeah, top five, but then I realized there was only six of us. So it's like less significant. So I just kind of like paused. Right? I'm like, top, the top. I
The
don't
top.
know. But she's
I
hilarious.
we've been kicking off all of these podcasts with the first impression. You know, you get
Mm.
eyes on Emily in the pregame. What is that first impression for you?
Oh, she had her little Game Boy. So my first impression of Emily at Pondy is okay, cute, retro, giving nerd. You know, serving nerd. Hot. I
Serving
loved
nerd.
it. And then she, when they put her in the sweater, I was like, yeah, it's more into the Velma take, you know?
Sure.
So I really felt like, and then when it came out, she was a financial analyst and da da da. Da, I was like, okay, boom, outfit makes sense. But my first impression was just like, okay, she's gonna be quiet and nerdy.
And then
I and then we get to the Bruce moment on the barge. And I was realizing very quickly I had misjudged her. And not in a bad way, might I add. I mean, I was really like, it was shocking, but it was also like, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, we all were thinking it. We were all thinking, like, oh man, the guy that's been here before that everybody loved because of the head thing, what? That like
Yeah.
that decreased my percentage. So the fact that she just kind of like said it, like, and who is this guy? And why is he back? Loved.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't show that I loved it, but
Sure.
loved it.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, first impressions is crazy. I don't know. What do you even
I
feel?
I was so like you're in the pregame, and if you've
Mm,
played Survivor or if you're going to go play Survivor, like as the super fan, I'm like, why is everybody here? You know what I mean? Like, what's everybody's like thing that they like? Because they just did the same casting thing that I did and that you did, so like they had.
mhm,
And then Emily something is like, oh my god, this is the something. And then I knew that would, it wasn't even the first comment, but it was the going
mhm.
back. It was the
Oh,
pushing back,
that's the doubling down,
doubling
which
down.
is a definite Emily pattern.
Sure.
Like I mean, we
Sure.
see it throughout the show numerous times. It's like, oh man, I said something controversial.
Hmm.
Let me make sure they know I'm not sorry about that. Like, so I
Yeah.
mean, I try to collect as many friends as I can with big personalities.
Hmm.
So I knew off the island, amazing.
Hmm.
On the island, problematic.
Sure.
And this early, oh,
Sure.
nightmare.
And then those first couple days, just even in the first 3 days, we don't even go to
Mm.
tribal council yet. What's the Emily vibe in those first 3 days for you?
Oh, she hated me. I don't
Yeah.
know what was going on, but anything I did was just like, she just created the opposition, which I understand wanting to have like more of a sounding board. It kind
Mhm.
of was, I'm putting on like, I mean, you guys don't know this. You think it's a trucker hat, but I'm really putting on a Marine hat. So
Mhm.
I'm just trying to like, okay, let's not sleep in the dirt,
Sure. Sure.
or on the raft, which we did, and it wasn't comfy. Wasn't
Yeah.
comfy.
Yeah.
I think you made a joke that literally, like, you were like, 45 seasons. We've
Yeah.
never seen anyone sleep on the raft.
Yeah. I
Like,
think I think the quote was, and I don't want to retort my own joke, but I think that I said we put the boat in the house and now we're fucked was the quote. It's
yeah,
like nothing's going
like
right because we
nobody's
put the
ever
boat.
like, and so we're laughing about it. We're trying to recover. I'm like, okay, well, there's all these bamboo laying everywhere. Let's just make something. And like, so we're trying to do the shelter, we're trying to get
Mhm.
stuff going at least. And Emily was just kind of very like on board, but not on board at the same time. It's
Yeah.
like helping, but also very vocal about everything that's going wrong.
Mhm.
Um, I think even Kaleb has a quote where he's like, she's not giving any suggestions. Which was like, it really just became like, damn, like, girl, like, we get it. This is bad, but we
Sure.
have to make something shake. So
Sure.
towards
Yeah,
me, it was bad. I don't know.
well, it's so funny because when I talked to Kaleb just now, his recollection is exactly that it was just not a lot of suggestions. And I never thought the issue was with you or any particular person, but it was so much
Mm,
that she was vocalizing what she wanted in a way that was not like soft and not
no.
warm,
Right.
whereas that is a quality that you have, and that's a quality that I think we all like. I don't know how to build a fucking shelter, like none of us do, so we hear your idea, which whether it was
Mm,
better or not, like we want to go with the warmer suggestion rather than
mhm.
whatever was happening there. um
Right.
a- and and then we ultimately, like, we lose that challenge,
Mm.
which Kaleb and I recollected we're like us before him, we're like,
Oh,
we're not gonna win. We're not gonna win.
right. Right. The goal was never to win. It was
Yeah.
just to make it through,
Yeah, sure.
like, and then, I mean, the game was happening so quickly, so fast for us because we couldn't even really rely on winning,
Yeah.
which is such a weird thing for the Survivor
But you know what?
world.
I think that's such a great benefit to Emily on 50
Mm,
because she had to play really hard, really fast.
yeah.
Whereas you see these new era tribes that don't ever go to tribal council the whole pre-merge, and they
Uh,
show up and they go to 1 or 2 or 3 tribal councils and then they're out. Like, Emily played. Emily got to play, as did you, as did
I
all of us,
agree.
like you had to play really hard, really fast, which is
Yeah.
not something that some of the people that are on 50 have.
I agree. I feel like I've probably been to more tribal councils than some people that went post merge. And it's like, I mean, outside of like jury, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, but it is kind of weird to think about it like that. Like Emily, she's always had to run downhill. She's
Yeah.
never really had to do the whole like, we're flat and then here's a rising action. It's just like, boom, you're on Lulu. Life is bad. What are you gonna do? Like, and so as she's like starting her little tap dance, like she's stumbling a little bit, but then, big finish. So I feel like in every sense, 50, she's gonna catch a lot of people off guard as opposed to like a D who's on Reba, Team Titans, and they're freaking dominating. And then she's dominating. She is the boss of the most dominant alliance, really arguably for the new era. So that's a big like, what is it? Contrast, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah.
like between them. So I understand like having both of those archetypes. It's like, okay, Mount Olympus meets Lulu. What what are they gonna work together?
Yeah.
Do they both have very prominent personalities? Can Emily like pair up with D as like she did a Caleb, just kind of like honoring that hey, you're better than me at this. Let's go together. I really hope so.
Yeah. And I think that I'm curious to see if people now do that to Emily. Like, Emily is now the Caleb
Mm,
of like I saw how good you could transition. So if somebody opens and they go a little, like, I wouldn't even call what Emily did of like going, crazy is the wrong word, but it's like I think the thing that I said to Caleb was like, her and I were both anxious, and
mhm.
her anxiety manifested in like an anger and a closed offness and a whatever, and mine was just like kind of sad. Like I was
Yeah.
like, I
Chronic
wasn't.
chest pain.
What's that?
Chronic chest pain. Like you had like you had so much going on. You remember like your chest was hurting and then you were like, I think I'm playing my shot in the dark. We're
Yeah,
like, where did your chest tell you to
yeah,
play your
yeah,
shot in the dark? What's going on? Like she was definitely like on that same spinning wheel, which we all are,
we all
okay?
are.
Like, of course, from sleep deprivation, like, we don't have any warmth, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like, there's no food, like, we're over here hunting for papaya. Every morning, me and Caleb are up hiking to get
yeah.
papayas that you don't even like,
I don't even like.
like,
They're very bad. I met
it's
at
it's
our
so
at our
sad.
finale. I met one of the
Yeah.
camera people, and they were like, "I had to watch you wince every time you ate that papaya." And he's like, "Somewhere there's like a hard drive of just
Just
close-up shots of you being like, oh my god."
look.
I maintain, I don't think it's very good. Like, I don't,
No,
it's not good.
no. Papaya is definitely a acquired taste, but it's also funny that with that being our only source of food,
Sure.
you and Hannah too were just so vocal about it being nasty. And so that made me laugh because I'm just like, well, more for me, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, like I don't know, like I feel like getting back to Emily, in those earlier days, we just I don't know, even when we were hunting for idols, you know, that's
Mhm.
something that also sticks out to me is just like not being able to work with her. You remember when everybody like sent me to go be like, hey, let's look in a group. And of course, like we know what we're thinking and we know what we're doing, but Emily's just like, I don't want to work with you. You're gonna see if I get an idol, and then you're just gonna tell everyone like I'm on the bottom. I'm cool with that. Please leave.
Yeah.
And that was even wild to have happened. Like, Emily was like just so overt, you know, like there was
Yeah.
no covertness, no
What was
covertness.
what was your retort to that? So just to reset this up, I think the
Yeah.
morning of day 4,
Hmm.
the 4 of us, me, you, Sean, Caleb, we want to find the idol before Emily because Emily's looking for it. So we
Right.
approach Emily and we say, we're all gonna look as a fivesome. And then Emily's like, no, no, that's crazy. But we sent you
No.
to go deliver tell her we're all gonna look as a group.
Right. And I don't know why that was a thing, you know, because
Yeah.
obviously we had already been kind of like, we're just two alpha people. So
Mhm,
I have ideas, she has ideas. People were going, I feel like, more with my ideas in the beginning, and it was
mhm.
kind of rubbing her the wrong way, whatever it was. And so I'm like, damn, now I got to be the one to go tell Emily, hey, let's look for the idol in a group. You know, like
Yeah.
it didn't paint me in a good light, I don't feel. And she was just very like, I think I'll look alone, you know?
Right. Which is why she's the best. So
Right.
I'm ultimately out of the game. You
Mhm,
ultimately are out of the game. And then
mhm.
Emily has this, I mean, not even before she has this transition into, kind of coming into her own, you and
Yeah.
I are at the Ponderosa every time that somebody new's coming. You and I were like,
Oh, shock.
Emily, Emily, right?
Li
Right? It gotta be Emily.
Literally, oh my god, like, we guessed Emily until we couldn't anymore. Like, it was like, there's no way it's not her. Okay, so Sean quit, right after
Sure.
me.
Sure.
So with that happen, it's like, okay, she's next. You know what
Hmm.
I'm saying? Like,
Hmm.
because Sean, you know, he had his moment, everything like that. That was a choice. There's no way that she's righted the ship that much after a swap, right? Because now
Right.
we know that they swapped the next day. So we're like, oh man, like no matter what, Emily's at the bottom because of the barge incident. You know, people aren't gonna favor her, da 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 da. Not the case.
Not the case.
And I just continuously, I mean, I remember like us just like being just hysterical, like just like wow, like this is gonna be the best comeback of Survivor history, period. Like there's
Yeah.
no, once it was Sean and then I believe it was Jay.
Brando
Or
before
no,
Jay. Yeah.
Brando.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brando. It was like, oh, she's good. Because she obviously has reinvented herself. Like there's no way, because that first week dealing, if she didn't make a change after that,
Yeah.
there's no way. Like there was just no way. So yeah, Caleb did his big one.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
from like you obviously have, many years of like military experience and to
mm,
like, drill sergeant your way, which like Caleb, has a much softer approach than a drill sergeant, of course. And it takes
right.
the conjunction of Emily's skill and readiness to learn and then Caleb's like recommendations. But like,
Hmm.
what does it say to you about Emily that she was so easily able to course correct after that? Whereas she gets to the end and she almost like she could win. Like they take her out because she could win,
Oh man.
which
I
is such
mean,
a departure from the Emily that you and I met.
oh, and I could not have been more proud of her watching the season, honestly. Because we, of course, we don't know. We just hear from the telephone and we talk to people, of course. Like, but wow, it was so beautiful. Because I mean, you do see, like, you asked being in the military, you do see like junior Marines that come in and you could tell we call them schmuckatellis. Like they have no idea what they're doing. Their uniform is messed up. They're sometimes overweight, sometimes can't pass certain tests or whatever. And it's just like, man, like you are the Charlie Brown and now you belong to me, you know?
Mhm.
But every once in a while, actually, I had a Marine like this. His name is Contreras Joseph. He's actually a sergeant now. And anything I would teach him, horrible. Like in the beginning, he gave me so many issues. I'm always having to see the man because of Contreras.
Mhm.
But now, squared away. He's making a career out of it. And he's really, really, I got to see him on a detachment actually a couple months back, and he freaked out because he hadn't seen me in years. And just to see the man that he is now, it's like, okay, somewhere along the line, it clicked.
Yeah.
Like, and I had to be very hard on him, like, no nonsense. Um, so I guess with Emily, like, eventually the light bulb will turn on, like, and I feel like even we saw like Gabler in his season realize you're a little too high profile, go
Mhm.
underneath, take a step back. It's like, oh man, y'all are telling me something I was not aware of myself. Let
Yeah.
me have some introspection and really make a harsh pivot. People that can do that in Survivor almost always go to the end, at least top 6. Like, if you
Yeah.
can really, like, course correct like that on your feet while hungry and starving and in the wilderness, awesome.
Which it's so, I mean, it's so hard to do. Like, that's why you see
Oops.
people not do it. That's what most
Yeah.
people can't do it. And most people go to the end, like,
Mhm.
with the qualities that are not going to win them the game. And they're
Right.
being told that this is not
Mhm.
working, but they don't ever, it doesn't
It's
click.
easier to die on the hill. It's easier to die on the hill. Like, I feel like even when with you talking about a personality like me, like, it's like, okay, I could be more like a like Katora, where she kind of like made herself a little bit smaller, didn't tell people that she was a lawyer and things like that. But for me, it's like, y'all aren't gonna believe that. As soon as I tell you guys, like, oh yeah, the smooth leaves are fruits.
Yeah.
And like, oh yeah, I know what time of day it is by looking at the sun, or y'all see me not, complaining about wearing my hoodie outside in 90 or whatever it was heat.
Yeah.
It's like, obviously she's done some stuff outside, like, it's not gonna
Yeah.
work, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like if you have the right archetype
Mhm.
to be really anything, like Emily, also with the type of person that she fits in so many categories, but then none at the same time.
Yeah.
Very diverse. So if you have that on your side, you can pivot. Like,
Yeah.
people don't know you yet. You could have just had a bad, couple of days, which is fine. Like, I mean, it
Yeah.
happens. It
I mean,
happens.
like, Aubry, who's playing season 50 with
Uh,
Emily, like, Aubry starts off pretty poor. David Wright, who I love, who was on
mm,
Lotus Next, he starts off poor. Like, there are some people who start off poor
it's rough.
and then
Yeah.
there's some people who start off poor and then that's the end of the journey. And it's that,
Not
but that,
us,
not,
but there are some,
there are some that
you
those are out
know.
there. Um, Tell me who else on the season 50 cast you're excited to see.
Oh, definitely Tiffany, for
Yeah.
sure. Can't wait, because I mean, I talked to her a lot after her season and during, and we have a lot of commonalities when it comes to the way that we look at the way our games went.
Mhm.
Obviously, she made it a lot further than me, but just being on the Boohoo tribe, being the stronger female, having
Mhm.
a big personality, and having to navigate that. So I really hope that they do her right with the tribe, in the
Mhm.
beginning. Like, hopefully she can get, not Q. No offense to Q, but that really, like, he almost blew up her game like 50 times within the first couple of days. So I'm hoping that they don't put them on. I mean, if it's great TV if they do,
It's good
but
TV.
for her $1 million moment,
Yeah.
I'm hoping that it's not. I'm also excited to see Angelina. I watched her story today, and she said, I can confirm that I brought my own jacket. Hilarious.
Love it.
Branding, way to commit to the bit.
Okay.
Um, who else? Rob, I guess. Like, no, Rob is on Traders, not
I'm
on.
so sorry.
I'm thinking about Traders because I can't wait to watch it. Shout out to
Yeah.
them.
We're
But
gonna have so much
anyway.
fun. It's gonna be so good.
Yeah, I'm thinking about Rob because I'm on his, RHAP right now. But but yeah, no, like, I feel like, yeah, Tiffany, D, Emily, those are like my three that I'm like standing super hard. But
I
we'll see.
If you were going back on, like, and
Mm,
I mean, Tiffany and Emily, pair this as well. But like being part of the disaster tribe and now heading into season 50. Like how
Yeah.
would, if you're in season 50 and your experience was your experience, how does being a part of the disaster affect how you play next time?
Just not let it control my mind as much. Like I feel like being in Lulu can be the only thing you're thinking about, and so you lose kind of the hindsight that you need to have in Survivor to get to the end in general. Like you can't be thinking about this moment. You have to be thinking about every moment around you. And I feel like the longer I stayed on Lulu, the more I just was only worrying about, what I could see right in front of me. Um yeah, like I just it changed everything. Like, and I feel like coming from a tribe that's more successful, you feel like the options are endless. It
Yeah.
like it doesn't put up those blinders that you get from being on like a disaster tribe. Like we were literally like planning into tribal councils from day one.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
Yeah.
I have to talk to someone today, period, or else I could be going home. Um, and that's just not a normal. I mean, it's happened, of course. Like we've
Yeah.
seen it as early as the Branch tribe. Like we've seen it, but it's different when it's happening to you.
Yeah, nobody thinks it's going to be them. Like no, you
Nobody.
you go to Survivor, you don't think that that's going to happen to you, and like oftentimes it doesn't. But you have these new
Right.
era seasons now. You've got us.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the Green Tribe from season 41. We've got
Mm-hmm.
Tiffany's tribe now, and then
Yeah.
Vula from just this last season. So half
Right.
the time, there's a tribe that's going to keep losing.
Oh,
And it's
and I
great
hate
to see
that.
people who like survive. They got out. You know what I mean? Like they got out.
Yeah.
Now they're on 50. It's like the new era representatives. A couple of them were in a situation that now, if you're in the new era, you like have a half a chance of ending up in that same spot. So that's pretty
A
cool.
thousand, 1,000%. And I feel like also it raises your like survivor capital for people to see you in such a crazy position and them to know, like, okay, I know that the feedback that we get is like, oh, if Sabiyah was on another tribe,
Sure.
like she definitely could have done better and da da da, and people will make their case and it makes you feel good,
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that's not the hand that you got. So to see like you said, Q, Tiffany, Emily, like people that came from those like we I mean, Q almost quit multiple like that's where you're at. Like if it
Sure.
rains,
Yeah.
if you're already on a Lulu situation type tribe and it rains,
Yeah.
that in itself will break you.
Yeah.
Like you haven't felt what it feels like to get, an idol from Jeff, like from
Yeah.
the immunity. Like you haven't felt what it feels like to strike Flint. Like you haven't been able to build a decent shelter to get yourself off the ground. The cane spiders are ginormous and you're
Yeah.
just sleeping on the ground. Like you remember that one spider Caleb tried to kill with the
The shoe.
machete?
Oh yeah.
Or and it went into we literally just went to the beach, gave it a minute, and we just acted like it didn't happen because we couldn't
Yeah.
even process how big that spider was.
Yeah.
And yeah, like so just not having the proper situation, needing your mentality, like it never really I never feel bad about like saying like, okay, yeah, we had two people quit from our season. It was really that bad. Like and
Yeah.
Hannah, I mean, she lost her socks on like day two.
Yeah.
She's wearing like a tank top. It's freezing. I had to give her my t-shirt. You don't share clothes in Survivor. I
Yeah.
gave her my t-shirt because it just was that bad. It's
Yeah.
raining. They edited out all the rain.
Yeah. It
I
rained
don't
that second night. I think it rained so
I
bad for hours.
our clothes are drenched. I couldn't
Yeah.
believe it when I saw it on TV. I had to tell my people, I'm like, it's raining right now. I know you
Yeah.
can't tell, but geez. So yeah, I'm really rooting for the underdogs this season. I feel like a lot of the underdogs, excluding D, do come from those types of tribes. Like
Yeah.
even Q to me could be considered like low
Oh
key an
yeah.
underdog, you know what I'm saying? Because of his bigness and then, not going as far or whatever. But and then starting on the Yanu. So yeah, I'm rooting for everybody that comes from tribes like us. Like they deserve it.
They
Just because
deserve
I
it.
know they deserve it. Like
Yeah.
nobody's gonna be mad about a Tiff win. Like
Yeah.
nobody. Yeah.
People loved you. And people do
Oh.
love you, but people loved you in the moment, in the real time, and especially after you left, because you have, and you can hear it here, you have such an interesting way of like looking at the show and
Mhm.
explaining the show in a way that like they do cast a lot of folks. I mean, everybody who gets cast for the show can explain it, but you have such a
Yeah.
unique way of doing so, which is just a bummer. Again, it's not even, this is not, there's no, gotcha at the end of this. It's just like, it's a bummer that people didn't get to see that for longer.
Oh, well, thank you. I feel like you have that too. Like, I mean, obviously, if you look at the beginning of our
Sure.
entire ad for our, our season, it's you
Yeah.
explaining a bank robbery.
Yeah.
Like that's, I mean, but that's who we are. That's how
Yeah.
we talk. We talk in stories and in like little antidotes for just the things that we've gone through and been through. And so I thank you. And I will reflect that sentiment back to you.
Yeah. Listen,
Yeah.
it's so, it's really nice. It's nice
Yeah.
to be able to do, Hannah and Sean were supposed to be here.
Hmm.
They didn't make it. You know what I mean? They left. I'm kidding. It's not. I don't stand by that joke. But we have such a good thing that's here, and I'm so
I
happy.
wasn't sure if you were gonna make that joke or not. I thought about it,
Sure.
like saying like, but I don't know. Is it still too soon? Like how do
It's
they
not too
feel?
soon.
It's
It's
not.
fine. It's funny, but it's so, what's interesting is, I mean, the day after I leave, you guys win the fruit reward. But like
Mm,
you go 7 days on Survivor, Sean goes 9 days on Survivor without a win. You know what I mean?
mm,
Even Stephanie LaGrossa, who's the lone person on her tribe at Palau, like they win an immunity, or they win a reward challenge that like, day 4. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
they've got something. Um,
yeah.
and I'm like, it sucks to not have a win. And it's not even like you
Ugh.
didn't have a win because you weren't participating. Like you did everything. You do the
Oh
sweat and
man.
savvy. You do all the stuff. And it sucks to not have a tangible win. And for in Sean's case, I think that's something that affected the situation, is that like
Oh
you're looking
yeah.
every direction. There's no win.
Because this is supposed to be your dream, and then it ends up being a nightmare. And it's
Yeah,
so fast. You're like,
it's so
oh
fast.
no,
Yeah.
not this edit. Um, it's really something to consider. For me, I know the biggest thing in my life for a long time was sports,
Hmm.
track and field, my body versus your body,
Yeah.
and I'm dedicated to it and I get it through. I go to college doing it and everything like that. And so coming to a situation like Lulu, where I've had a lot of success in competition, it's been my identity in most spaces, the strong athletic girl, so I'm not shocked that that's where I'm at when it
Yeah.
comes to Survivor. I am shocked that I'm the only one, like girl wise. I thought that it would be more jockey or something.
Sure.
Like, I mean, of course, like you never really, I mean, season 40 and up, or 41 and up, they don't really have themes anymore, which is
Yeah.
something that is, I feel like, is a big curveball for
Yeah.
new era players. You don't know what the design is. It's pretty much just like, let's see if this will work. And
Sure. Sure.
I miss the days I feel like this makes me miss the days where they did have like themes because you knew what you were getting at from the beginning and you could kind of assess your tribe based off of what Jeff said they were
Hmm.
to production. But I don't know. Yeah. It's rough from from an athlete mind to be like, we are the Lulu losers. It's like, wow. And I kind of have to like turn on just my humor button,
Yeah.
and laugh at my pain a little bit with that because
Yeah.
it's just never how I ever feel or identify as like someone that loses all the time. So when we did get that win, I'll never forget, the freaking moment when Caleb sinks the ring on the side. Literally, I could watch it right now and I would tear up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I just remember we were just so freaking defeated. And Emily literally, we're just like, like just it's like we
Yeah.
couldn't even believe, like, are you serious? And we're done light years in front of these guys. And Jeff
Yeah.
has been, I mean, he's been grilling our ass all season.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Lulu in the deep freeze. He kept saying it over and over. And so I remember looking at Jeff and I was like, So you're not going to tell them that they're in the deep freeze because we're waiting for them to get these circles, and he just starts laughing at us because we finally can talk a little shit,
Yeah, yeah.
like oh man, we had no room. So that was a beautiful moment. I feel like even for just Survivor bucket list wise, like at least we did get one.
Yeah.
People forget about it all the time, but I
Yeah.
know I don't.
No, it's yeah, you can't, that's so nice. It's really,
Yeah.
I have a hard time watching. I can't watch it because I get, it's emotion,
Oh,
it's like
it's
it's an,
emotional.
yeah,
Literally every time, and it's just like big group hug instantly. And even like that moment, it's like we're disgusting. We should not be touching anyone,
sure.
let alone each other.
Yeah.
And just coming together, it was the first time we really felt like a unit
Mhm.
because it had been so fragmented. And of course, Emily's been fighting for her life for the last two tribals.
Yeah.
Like me and Caleb have been, considered to be a pair, and then there's Sean,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
and he's just kind of like afloat. Like people, I mean, we were obviously really, really close with Sean. Sean knew about everything that was going on
Yeah.
the whole time. So, but the way his edit goes, it kind of makes you see him seem like he wasn't as much of a part of,
Sure.
our alliance as he was. But that was just, oh man. I would pay somebody to put that in my veins. Like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
feeling.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it was
And
beautiful.
I hope that Emily has so many more of those. I hope Emily doesn't have to worry about
Oh,
this for a little bit. I
I
hope
I
Emily can
hope
cruise, you
I
know.
hope Emily gets a break. Just the same way I hope Tiffany gets a break. Like I
Yeah.
hope Emily gets put on a tribe with just people that understand her. It took us a minute because it just kind of came out of left field. But the benefit of somebody that's like Emily and that's playing again is that this isn't the first time people have seen her.
Yeah.
It would be like not expecting Boston Rob to be the godfather. It's like
Sure.
him, so
Yeah, yeah.
Emily. You've seen her, you know how she's speaking, and you don't need to take it personal. She can come off a little harsher than she actually means to be. Like they got to see her blossom on TV. So I feel like that's like more of a feather in her cap than it is something that she has to wear as like a scarlet A throughout her season. And
Yeah.
I don't feel like she's gonna have that problem really at all.
No.
Really.
I
Mm-mm.
think that she's gonna, yeah, I'm hoping that she does great. Caleb and I, again, if you're listening, you just heard us say it.
Yeah.
Like, how many people are cast on Survivor that can win? And I think the first time Emily was cast, maybe with low confidence that she could win
Mm.
Survivor, And I think now, like, how
Oh,
often do you get people who switch where like
baby.
they're now in the team winner when they weren't when they were cast? I think of like a
Oh.
David Wright who's maybe similar, who they meet David
Mm.
Wright in the casting. He's anxious. He's this guy who's kind of all over the place. And then he plays, and then all the producers for a couple of days are like, "Oh, we're right. Like we exactly what we thought was going to happen is happening." And then
Right.
he gets to turn it around, and then he plays again. I think Emily's a successor. Aubrey too. Aubrey's the same thing. I think
Aubrey.
Um,
Mhm.
so we'll
I would
see.
love to see them together,
Yeah,
Aubrey and Emily. That would be insane 1-2 punch, I feel like, as far as duos go. Do I feel like Emily would let it happen? I don't know. You
yeah,
know what I'm saying? Like it just depends. But I would love to see her kind of just be like, "Oh, super fan of you. Like I would love to work with you," and then them just work.
yeah.
So we'll see. But yeah, like I do feel like her having the pivot from being like a somebody we're worried about to somebody we don't have to
Hmm.
is iconic. Like
Yeah,
it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, yeah, like there's thousands of people right now making t-shirts as we speak and making Emily their winner pick. Like
yeah,
that's just where we're at. And she is, the mother or whatever. I'm still trying to figure out how to use that. I don't feel like that was a good go of it, but I'll continue to work on it. But yeah, she has a lot of
that's funny.
she has a lot of success. It's no shock at all, and people love her for it. And so I really, really hope that this season she can use that real estate that she's built, even in Survivor players, because we are fans too. Like
Yeah,
all of us are fans. All of them, more than likely, knowing that they're going into 50. I know what they were doing. They were watching film. They were watching all of the seasons.
yeah,
If they weren't,
Yeah.
I would hate to be I would hate to be the one person on 50 that doesn't know everybody's season. Like you didn't just do like a once over. So I
Yeah.
know even for me, I was doing that, for preparation stuff. Like you gotta start watching it just to remind yourself. Even I'm a super fan since I was 5. So hopefully that weighs in her favor. I'm excited. If Emily pulls this shit off, bro,
We're gonna run in the
Lulu will have
streets.
Lulu will have the most up year on the planet. Like the most up since arguably since the end of our season. There have been
Mhm.
so many wins like internally for just Lulu in general. And people thought that we were losers. But
Did you see that tweet that somebody tweeted? Are you know the tweet?
yes, I did. I
Yeah.
did. Where it was like basically giving all our stats of everything that we've
Yeah.
been crushing since
Oh,
getting out. And
I have
so,
it here. Reality simp. Shout out to the
mhm,
reality simp, whoever you are. I've never met you.
yeah.
Emily on 50, Sabiyah dating Katura, Brandon on RHAP host, Lulu stays winning. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Very funny. Very, very funny.
I was like, yes. And that's
Yeah.
on everything. Because in Survivor, okay, yeah, but that has nothing to do with real life. Real life, there's a reason we're on the show.
Yeah.
Obviously. So I'm happy and I can't wait. If Emily wins, we will ride at dawn. Like we have to have like a parade. Like everyone wear yellow, like we'll bring ladders and
Sure.
candles
Sure.
and it'll be fantastic. Everybody will get the theme. Everyone
Zin,
will.
a little chewing tobacco, perhaps.
Right. Well, I'll have vapes. It will be great.
Well, you have so much going on at the moment. Tell
Mm.
everybody where they can follow you and what you're up to, all that fun stuff.
Okay, so I'm in a hard launch with Couture right now. So social media has been epic. We just did the New York City Pride Parade with Audible. Um, Insane.
Mhm.
As someone that's from Atlanta, we do Pride big. New York, we ain't holding the candles in New York. They do, they do Pride, honey. Everyone.
Mhm.
So that was fantastic. You can find me at on Instagram at underscore the solar, like your soul poppy. Made that tag a long time ago.
Mhm.
Hasn't really aged as well as I thought,
Sure.
but it was the era I was in, and it helps me. It stays, I stay grounded. So
Sure.
I don't
Sure.
want to change it now. I have so many things attached to it now. But yeah, underscore the solar, like your soul poppy.
Can you, before we go, really quick, tell everybody when you're walking home from the Pride Parade who you bumped into on the street?
Oh, I saw you. I literally was just talking to your mom about it. Literally, I just texted her, but yeah, that was insane because I had hit you up before and I was like, when are we going to see each other? And then it literally just happened. Like, I believe in the law of attraction. And
Sure.
I think I just like screamed because I couldn't believe it. Like, I'm exhausted. I'm in way too much rainbow. I never do that, but it was fun.
Mhm.
And there's Brandon and Debbie, his girlfriend. Gorgeous. Of course, I can spot Debbie a mile away. It takes me a minute to see a Brandon, but Debbie.
I look like a lot of people in New York. And most of us look like me.
Most. But yeah, it was great to see you. And hopefully y'all can come down to where I'm at, or I'll be back up to New York, I'm sure, and we'll get
Yeah.
together.
Well, oh my God, this is so nice. We will be back next time with another episode of the Survivor 50 Files. Sabiyah, you don't go anywhere. Stay until after this. But thank you, everybody, for listening. We will see each other soon. See you soon. Thank you to our friends at Manta Sleep for sponsoring this episode of the Survivor 50 Files. You've made it to the end of the podcast. You've been here long enough. Let me show you my sleep mask, the one that I use, and I use every night. Here it is. I've worn this every night for the past couple years. Minus the 4 nights that I spent on Survivor, the television show. And it sucks to get voted out of Survivor, but a little bit better when you know you're going back home to this. This is 100% light blackout for deeper sleep. You put this on, can't see anything. When I watched the first 2 episodes of Survivor 45, I put this guy on. I don't have to relive it, which is great. It's adjustable for a personalized fit. You can see I have quite a big head. I don't want to show you the details of I've kind of worn out the elastic, but it's durable. This guy hasn't broke. I've worn it every night for the past couple years, and it's zero pressure on your eyelids or eyelashes. I've converted so many people to getting this sleep mask when I wasn't doing this, and I want to convert you. Use promo code 50files. That's 50 FILES on the Manta Sleep website to get 10% off your order. That's 50files, 50 FILES. We'll see you soon.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.